Welcome back. Today we're going to do a quick one on the SoundPEATS Run Free Lite2. So these are a recent model that came out, I think, a few weeks ago. And I did want to start with maybe an overview of what SoundPEATS does in this area. So they call these things one of two things, either air conduction or I think open ear, I think is the other word they use for them. But essentially you get, it looks like an earbud, but it actually sits on top of your ear, offset from your ear canal. So nothing goes in your ear canal. It doesn't block your ear canal. It's meant to be offset or indirect sound. And that really allows you to have environmental sounds coming in at the same time you are having high quality music. So they do offer two versions of this. One is the sort of connected neckband style. This is the Go Free 2, which is the wireless style. And as far as, what they look like, the actual shells themselves, very similar. This one is actually a little bit bigger. This one looks a little bit more high quality. It's definitely a nicer finish on the wireless version. This is a more premium product, and we'll talk about this one shortly in a couple of days. This one is yet to be released. I think it actually comes out in about 3 days, but we'll talk about that one shortly. But before we do, I do want to say that the two products essentially are very similar, and if we look at the features of one versus the features of two, essentially the same 16.2 dynamic driver. This one has more playtime, probably because it has another battery, 15 hours versus 35 hours, and then the same dual mic situation. So I do think they are very similar in that respect. The feature sets are very similar. This one actually does say LDAC. This one does not say LDAC, yet it has LDAC. So I was actually listening to it over LDAC. I'm not sure why. There's probably some technical reason why they didn't put it on the box. Maybe it's not certified or there's some other reason, but mine definitely has LDAC, and that was how I listened to it. So yeah, kind of a interesting set, and we'll kind of go over this again. So as I said, this is essentially meant to, those of you who put on neckbands, you sort of get the idea. This goes around your neck. This kind of hits your temple-ish area. This sits on top of your ear, a little bit offset, and the music gets piped through this speaker, kind of hitting the top of your ear and bounces into your ear canal. And I would say it's more of a headphone. Those of you who are used to in-ear monitors, it doesn't really sound like that. It definitely sounds more like a unsealed headphone. But when you get used to it and you have the brain burn and it kind of gets used to hearing what it sounds like, it sounds very natural. And I think having the sound kind of bouncing off the top of your ear and then allowing in the environmental sounds in a natural way without piping them in through transparency mode, I think it does become a very natural thing. And again, the difference between the two is probably going to be your use case. This one is definitely more for physical activity, where these might be flung off your head in constant motion, like in a gym or something like that. This is kind of more less motion, but you still want to have an awareness of your surroundings. So, I think SoundPEATS did the right thing. They give you two different options. This one is definitely more affordable, definitely more sweat-proof. This is definitely more of a premium product. Maybe you could actually use it in the office. You could use it as walking around outside. More of a premium look to it. But as far as sound quality, they're actually very similar. It's just a matter of how you're going to use it, I think, is the big difference. So, as I said, they call them open-ear headphones. The idea is that you have both high-quality music and an awareness of your surroundings at the same time. And as I've said before about this design, it actually works surprisingly well. That's because I am someone who uses transparency mode on TWS a lot. I actually do prefer having an awareness of my surroundings, even if I have TWS in ears, and this one is an even better solution because it's definitely more natural. There's an advantage to transparency mode because some of them do boost far sounds, so it's almost like having a slight version of super hearing. It's almost like a hearing aid. It can actually function in that way. This is more of a straight natural version of it where you're just not blocking the canal, so it's letting in noise that way as opposed to boosting it and piping it into your ear. So I think that the fit on these two guys is actually a little bit different as well. And I think the fit is actually different between different neck bands from different brands as well. So I think the Run Free Lite2 is more of a temple pressure. So what I noticed was, and the wireless one kind of relies on the ear hook. This relies a lot on this point right here. So the neckband tends to squeeze your head about right here, and then you get a second contact point kind of around your ear. But I noticed this point more so than this point. And the neckband itself wasn't really meant to be. There isn't really a contact point on this one. They actually left the neckband free to swing, and you can actually adjust the angle of it to your, I don't know, preference or how the sound sounds. But yeah, I think some of them tend to use this back point on the neck to kind of squeeze your neck and hold it secure. That's not what the Run Free Lite one does. It actually uses, they call it memory wire, and I do think it, when you open and snap at your ears, it tends to hit your head right here, and that is one of the secure points. And then the second one will be around the ear hook as well. So I thought that was actually kind of different, definitely different than other neckbands I've tried, which tended to use the neckband more as a contact point as opposed to your head. If you're very sensitive into the temple area, you'll notice this one a little bit more. And definitely after a couple hours, you notice both points, as opposed to this one, which is a looser fit and mainly really secured through the ear hook. So I think the hardest part of this design is really keeping the earpieces in place. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be consistent between the ears. You don't have any seal, but you don't want the earpieces to be, because it's almost like a channel imbalance when one is offset from the other one. So I think this design actually works really well in that respect. And not having the contact around the neckband actually enforces this, keeping these two consistently in place. And I think they actually did it probably works a little bit better with the neckband, keeping both of them in place. And that's sort of what I've said in the past before. But in that respect, I think that the temple it's better, as you can really, it doesn't shift the earpieces. If you're moving your head and looking side to side, if you're doing physical activity, you're working out, this is a much better design than this, which is going to have a little bit more variation on that. And that's exactly why they pitched it for this. So spec-wise, Bluetooth 5.3, 15 hours like I talked about, does support SBC, AAC, and LDAC. And again, I don't know why they left off LDAC, but definitely mine supports LDAC. 16.2 dynamic driver, sweat resistant. What I noticed was, for those of you who are SoundPEATS prior customers and have used their SoundPEATS app, there's something now called Peats Audio, which is a different app. This one connected over Peats Audio. It didn't actually connect over my older SoundPEATS. I guess there's a transition happening, but kind of caught me off guard. When I pulled up my SoundPEATS app and I tried to connect the Run Free Lite2, it didn't actually find it. And then I look at the card inside and it says, oh, you need the new Peats app, the Peats Audio app. So yeah, so look for that change. I'm not sure if that's specific to this model or certain models, but definitely noticed it on this model. And that's where it's almost the same functionality, though. If you want to do firmware updates, if you want to do EQ, that's where you're going to find it, just like in the old app. And this one, like I said, does have 2 microphones for calls. Sound, again, this is really a nice compromise of good sound quality, fit, and cost. Definitely a more affordable set than this one. This one, again, it's one of these sets that I think lists for $40-ish, and then you'll see coupons that'll bring it down into the $20 range. This one is a more pricier model, and I'm not sure what this one is actually going to list at yet, because as I said, it was not quite released yet, but it will be soon. But definitely a pricier version than this, and this one is just more complicated and all that stuff. But as I said, sound quality between the two, not all that different. The open ear air conduction design, it doesn't sound, I don't know, it kind of sounds like an open headphones. There's some loss of extension at either end, which is kind of what you're expecting. It's really hard to do sub-bass extension when you have this open design. Same thing on the upper treble. It's really hard to really hear those things. And as you're piping in environmental sounds, it's kind of get the same thing. But again, where it does best is kind of right there in the mids and the vocals and the part that you really want to have for calls and movies and the general purpose TWS things. That's exactly what it does very well. Being outside the ear canal, it definitely has a more natural dynamic driver sound, sort of like that open headphone sound as opposed to an IEM sound. It definitely has a more natural dynamic driver, just the way the sound is moving into your ear. That is way more natural than wearing something that's inside of your canal. And I'll say the volume is actually very interesting on this set. Even at low volume, there's really a sense of still being surrounded by the music rather than originating at the ears. It does that very, very well. I was kind of surprised how low you can go on volume, and these still sound surprisingly well, much better than IEMs. And as far as sound quality, you will want to press the earbuds closer to your ears, but resist doing that because you want them to really sit naturally on your head and have your brain adjust to how they sound from that indirect way the sound comes in. It sounds a little different. Not if you're used to IEMs, it sounds very different. If you're used to headphones, you'll kind of feel like you need a better seal. But resist doing that and just get used to the way they sound, and it will quickly sound very natural to you and quite good. But resist the urge to keep on pushing them. So while these were made for outdoors in the gym, you can certainly use them in the office as well for the same purpose. I think having music as well as hearing your surroundings actually is a good use for these as well. Whether you use the wireless version or the wired version, I think they both do that. They really do continue to work well, as I said, into low volume levels for background, not distracting music that you might have at your desk. That's how I was using them. I think the 16mm dynamic driver works better at low volume than most single dynamic driver IEMs. Again, as I say, it's very strange how well it works at low volume, and I wasn't actually expecting it. I thought this one was going to work a little bit better at low volume. This is more for higher noise environments, but again, like I said, they're both essentially the same sound design and probably the same driver, so they both work equally well at low volume. I didn't think about using this one at my desk as much as I did, but yeah, it's actually quite good to work at your desk for definitely having an awareness of surroundings, low volume, no distracting, music that's projected around your head. I think it's actually a very cool set in that respect. So that is what I have on the Run Free Lite2. Whether you are actually running or sitting at your desk, cool solution to that. So thank you guys again for tuning in, and I will see you next time.